So what makes a food forest anyway? Well, today I want to help explain to you my thoughts and opinions on the subject as I see it, in hopes to give you a better understanding of what it is that I'm up to over here and hopefully inspire anybody who's interested in maybe taking their annual gardening to the next level by creating a more sustainable design, one in which if you were to walk away from it once fully established, it would literally turn into a forest, just like the natural forests we have all around the world when left undisturbed. Now, the term food forest was derived from permaculture. You may have noticed if you've been following along, I never quite commit to labeling what I do as one particular thing. That's because I've been inspired by so many different types of gardening techniques, whether it's permaculture, aquaculture, greenhouse growing, hydroponics, natural farming, polyculture, companion planting, organic gardening, annual gardening, market gardening, forest gardening, the list goes on and on and on. So I tend to stick with looser terms, which will allow me less constraints moving forward as I continue to evolve and hone in my design. So the basic premise behind the food forest idea is to utilize your landscape to the maximum, starting all the way below the soil surface with root crops and ending with an upper canopy layer. This way we're able to take full advantage of our available landscape, utilizing not just the land mass area, but also the airspace. Before implementing a design like a food forest, it's very pertinent that you understand how the sun's going to be shining through onto your particular piece of property. This is important because the layers that are being established need to have access to sunlight for photosynthesis. So if you had a southern facing property which is going to give you full sun exposure and you put your largest trees in front of the rest of your garden, you would in effect be shading out many of the crops that you're trying to get full sun to. Now, before I move forward, I want to explain something further about my particular design. Now, being that I live in a mostly urban area here in Northern California, Zone 9B, I have a limited amount of space in which I want to maximize my production. Because of that fact, what I actually have on a year-to-year basis is a managed food forest system. That means that it takes me, as part of nature, to come out here and prune back some of these trees and create more sunlight to come in to maximize its potential. It also means that if at some point I was to walk away from this design, it would not only continue to grow and survive, but thrive. Whereas some of the trees would become larger than others, shading out some of the other crops beneath. Some things would survive and some things would die back, but after many years of being completely left natural to continue to grow, you would be left with something very similar and functional as a forest. Now, if I started off my design over much acreage, I'd be designing it in a whole different way, with an aim to be completely self-sustaining, left unmanaged right from the gate. Now let me talk a little bit about the layers that make up a food forest. So generally speaking, there's 7 different layers to focus on when trying to develop a food forest. As I had mentioned earlier, it starts below the soil surface where the planting of root crops begins. We're talking about things like potatoes, sunchokes, yacon, carrots, beets. This is also where mycelium starts to form and interconnects all your different plantings, almost like the internet of the soil. The soil that makes up this layer is also teeming with life. This is known as the soil food web. Here you'll find arthropods, nematodes, fungi, protozoa, bacteria, all coexisting and working in uniform with animals and birds and even the plant roots to break down and create more organic matter into the soil. From there you have crops growing on the soil surface. These are going to be your ground cover crops, things like clover, purslane, fava bean, yarrow, mushrooms. Even larger perennial plants such as the purple tree collard, if left to sprawl on the ground rather than staked up, will work as an effective ground cover. The next level up is going to be the herbaceous layer. These are going to be your shrubs, your berries, plants like blueberries, aronia berry, honeyberry, goji berry, currants, autumn olive, and many, many more. Above the shrub layer, you'd have your low-growing trees. These could either be dwarf trees or just naturally low-growing trees. Fruit trees, nut trees, nitrogen-fixing trees, deciduous trees that create natural mulch, or chop-and-drop style trees to help you build your soil. And above that would be the canopy layer. These are the larger fruit and nut trees that will tower above everything else in the food forest. The canopy layer is also commonly the support for the vining layer. The vining layer is put there to once again try to utilize all that vertical airspace by vining up through some of them taller trees, utilizing the available sunlight and growing more food and medicine. This could be plants like the hop vines, or grapes, or chayote, wing beans. So many options to choose from. So once you have all those 7 layers established with deep, healthy root systems, that would be the point where you have either a managed backyard food forest type system, or like I had mentioned, if you were on acreage or if you had walked away from one of these systems, it would fully take off into a functional, highly producing forest system. So depending on how you look at it, a food forest encompasses many different types of techniques. It's polyculture, whereas you're interplanting many different types of plant species in a way that's mutually beneficial. You're using companion planting, such as establishing nitrogen fixer plants near the base of some of your other plants to help feed that plant itself as well as the surrounding plants. You're planting crops that help to bring in beneficials like butterflies, bees, and ladybugs to help balance out the invasion of some of these more pesky critters like aphids, whiteflies, and fungus gnats. Another wonderful thing about food forest design is, generally speaking, folks involved in this sort of gardening technique tend to work with nature, avoiding chemical fertilizers, sprays, and other things that may be harmful to our health and the soil food web. So that's my basic breakdown as to what creating a food forest is all about. Now, I just want to remind anybody listening today who's perhaps looking at moving in this direction, remember, everything materialized in this world started out with an idea. So believe you can do it. Get your ideas on paper, give yourself some time, and before you know it, you'll be enjoying the fruits of your labor and your own little slice of paradise. Well, that's it for now, everybody. Thanks for watching, and as always, I hope this video finds you and finds you well, out in the world and out in your garden, planting more abundance in your life. Take care, everybody. I'll be talking to you again soon.